The House of Representatives passed a resolution to release the files that the Department of Justice has on Jeffrey Epstein. The vote comes after a months-long battle between Republican leadership and Democrats. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has more on the story.
All congressmen except Republican Congressman Clay Higgins voted in favor of the discharge petition to compel the Department of Justice to release all the files it has on the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Don't muck it up in the Senate. Don't get too cute. We're all paying attention. If you want to add some additional protections for these survivors, go for it. But if you do anything that prevents any disclosure, you are not for the people and you are not part of this effort.
The president has also said that he would sign the bill into law if it reached his desk.
Democrats are trying to use the Epstein matter as a political weapon to distract from their own party's failures. And in a desperate attempt, they're trying to somehow tie President Trump to the scandal.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who opposes the bill, has warned the public of potential flaws in the legislation and potential impacts if it's signed into law.
The discharge petition could create new victims, okay? Because it requires the DOJ to release information even in cases where the DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible. It is false information.
Republicans have made it clear that their investigation through the House Oversight Committee on the Jeffrey Epstein case will not end if the Jeffrey Epstein files that the Department of Justice has are released.
And they deserve justice. It has been too long delayed. Not just justice for what they were made to endure, but also we need answers on why it took so long for the Department of Justice itself to do that job under previous leadership.
The Department of Justice is pursuing investigations on links in between prominent Democrats and Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier today, former Democratic Treasury Secretary Larry Summers stepped down from public life after emails linked him to Jeffrey Epstein. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Former Harvard president and former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has announced that he is stepping back from all public commitments. Here's more.
In a statement released yesterday to the Harvard Crimson, the former Harvard president and former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers said he needs time to rebuild trust and repair relationships. The announcement comes days after the House Oversight Committee released more than 7 years of private messages between Summers and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The documents show the two remained in contact up until July 5th, 2019, just one day before Epstein's arrest. Summers told the Crimson he's deeply ashamed and accepts full responsibility for continuing the relationship. Since the revelations, he's resigned from Yale's Budget Lab and ended his fellowship at the think tank Center for American Progress. The Crimson reports that Summers remains a paid columnist at Bloomberg and a board member of OpenAI. Summers' spokesperson told the paper he will continue teaching at Harvard. His move comes as Senator Elizabeth Warren urges Harvard to cut ties with him entirely. The Justice Department has launched an investigation into Epstein's connections with Summers and other prominent figures.
Thank you for staying with us. President Trump welcoming the Saudi Crown Prince at the White House for a day of pomp and circumstance. The Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman pledging to boost his country's investment in the U.S. from before $6 billion to now $1 trillion. NTD's Washington correspondent Mario Otsu brings us more from the White House.
Today, President Trump is hosting the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, also known for short as MBS, at the White House for a day full of ceremony and also talks about business deals, civil nuclear investments, and a defense agreement. The president greeted the Crown Prince on the South Lawn of the White House this morning. The ceremony included a military band and a flyover. And the Crown Prince, before a private lunch with the president, already announced to reporters that he's upping his previous $600 billion pledge in investments to the U.S. to $1 trillion. Take a look at that announcement.
We believe in what you're doing, Mr. President, is really creating a lot of good things and good foundation to create more economic growth, more business in America. And it will also your work for the world peace. We're going to announce that we are going to increase that $600 billion to almost $1 trillion of investment, real investment and real opportunity by details in many areas. And the agreement that we are signing today in many areas in technology, in AI, in earth materials, magnet, etc., that will create a lot of investment opportunities.
So you are doing that now. You're saying to me now that the 600 billion will be 1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that.
I like that very much.
He works hard for that.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. That's great. We're doing numbers that nobody's ever done.
This is coming as President Trump is touting his administration's economic agenda and tariff strategy and ramping up his talks on affordability before the midterm elections next year, saying today that $1 trillion investment is equivalent to national security for America. President Trump also praises the Crown Prince, calling what he's done for Saudi Arabia in terms of human rights, quote, incredible. MBS is known for ushering in an age of social transformation in Saudi Arabia. Women in Saudi now drive, work, and mingle freely with men, freedoms that were once punishable by flogging in Saudi Arabia. This is also the Crown Prince's first visit to the U.S. since the 28 killing of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi that U.S. intelligence believed was ordered by MBS. President Trump and the Crown Prince today both responded to a question about that killing. Take a look.
You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc., in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Meanwhile, further details on AI, nuclear power, and defense agreements are expected to emerge from the meetings today, and the ceremonies continue throughout the day, culminating in a black tie dinner hosted here by the president at the White House. Don, back to you.
And continuing with our coverage of the high-profile meeting today, President Trump hosting Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the White House. Joining us now to discuss is Taylor Hathorn, visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum Center for American Safety and Security. Taylor grew up in the Middle East and has extensive experience in the region. So Taylor, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. First things first, I wanted your thoughts on your view on whether Mohammed bin Salman is now fully back in Washington's good graces under this administration, because he was once labeled a pariah by former President Joe Biden, right? And now is receiving one of the most ceremonial welcomes at the White House.
Thanks for having me, Don. No, I think it is very apparent of the friendship that President Trump has with Crown Prince Mohammed, and I think that is definitely shown in the relationship that they had today. At one point in the press conference they had with President Trump mentioned that in no world in which is it required for a crown prince or a president to have this kind of openness and open conversation with the press and with the American people about just what to expect. I think it was a long way to show that the prince and the crown prince in Saudi Arabia is really wanting to work with the United States and work within our norms to be a good partner and a good ally to the United States.
And the Crown Prince also said during that meeting that it is in Saudi Arabia's own interest as well, speaking about the investments. And besides that, I also wanted to talk about the Crown Prince's work and goals. What do you think here? To what extent has he tried to move Saudi Arabia away from its past associations, right, with radical fundamentalist ideologies?
Yes, I think there's no doubt that Saudi Arabia has made progress in this regard, but it still ranks among the in human rights violations and women's rights violations. And so while we have to recognize that they are doing good work, they are moving forward in progress, and that this is an expectation of the United States to continue partnership with us and to continue advancement with us. This does not mean that they are at the top of the charts and that it is good for women or people in general to live in Saudi Arabia. So I think we have to be really careful with that rhetoric, but we also have to understand that Saudi Arabia is an incredibly important partner to the United States. We've got China on the forefront of our minds, and China's relationship with the rest of the world and with other nations in the Middle East could be very concerning. And I think that Saudi Arabia's investment in us and the United States and our infrastructure is going to be a really important part of us winning this fight in the future.
How do you think Mohammed bin Salman wants the world to view Saudi Arabia currently? You mentioned progress earlier, but there's still more to be done, right? Are you optimistic or not that this progress will continue?
I am optimistic that it will continue, and I think if you look at the nations, you look at Qatar, you look at the Emirates, you look at Saudi Arabia, and the changes that are being made. These nations are deeply committed to making changes to be an economic epicenter for their region of the world. They want to be like the United in the Middle East. They want to lead, not just economically, but politically. It is why they are, even during the first Trump administration, were amongst the first nations to be involved in the Abraham Accords, because they want to be the leaders of peace in their own hemisphere. And I think that that is something that we can expect to be maintained. I also think it's really important to note that this next generation of leadership, the incoming Crown Prince, him house instead of the king, is a really important nod to this is the direction that the nation is heading in, and this is what we can expect from Saudi Arabia moving forward. Now, whether or not they continue with their human rights progress will be yet to be seen, and I can assure you that Independent Women's Forum will be monitoring that in the years to come. But I am personally, just having grown up overseas, really excited to see them at the table. And a $1 trillion investment in the United States is nothing to shy away from. This is a huge, huge deal for both of our nations.
Okay, so you brought up the Abraham Accords briefly just now, and I want to pull on that thread a bit more. President Trump wants Saudi Arabia to join the Accords, and the Crown Prince said he wants to join it, but there needs to be a path to Palestinian statehood. What are the prospects of a Saudi-Israel normalization deal right now?
Well, I mean, I think you heard them talk about it when they were talking about the F-35s, and Israel needs to be able to maintain a qualitative advantage in that weaponry. And, you saw President Trump say that Saudi Arabia is an ally, just as Israel is an ally. And I think that nod from the president in the Oval Office was a little bit of the respect that MBS needed to be able to say that America was serious about having them at the table. I do not think that Saudi Arabia is going to let their foot off the pedal about Palestinian statehood. Up to the Palestinian people whether or not they're going to choose to recognize Israel's right to exist, and whether the Israeli people are going to do the same for the Palestinian people in that regard.
So, Taylor, we were talking about what role does China play in all this with my previous guest earlier just now. Do you think there's an intention, I want to ask you this question, behind this meeting between President Trump and the Saudi Crown Prince, sort of moving Saudi Arabia from China and Iran as well?
I don't think that there is any conflict that the United States or situation that the United States is involved in right now that does not involve China in some way. That is not giving China more credit than they are due. It is just that they are our adversary at the moment. And yes, we're playing nice with them and they are playing nice with us at the moment regarding diplomatic and economic relationships. But I have to wonder that whether we had a president that was as strong as President Trump is, whether or not she and the CCP and the PLA be as cooperative at the moment. So I do believe this has a lot to do with China's desire to have a footprint in every corner of the world so that they can continue authoritarian and dictatorial regimes throughout the world.
Okay, Taylor, I just have one last question on my mind here. More broadly speaking, how important would you say Saudi Arabia is to the U.S.'s foreign policy goals?
I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think that the world at large needs leadership in the Middle East. I think that you see that with the United Arab Emirates, you see that with Qatar, and we hope to see that with Saudi Arabia. I think it is very important in that region. That is yet to be seen on the role that they play in the world as a whole. I think that they have to get the human rights record up to be able to have a seat at that table. Like, yes, right now they're chairing the Committee on Women and Girls in the UN Security Council or the UN United Nations, and I think that that gives them an opportunity to see what they can do and what they're made of. And I think the rest of the world is watching, and they're watching the leadership that they have in that regard. And so I think that that is yet to be seen, role they play on a global scale. But I have hope in this young leadership, and I have hope in what the GCC nations really want to contribute to advance in democratic values for the rest of the world.
Yes, I think we all have hope that the U.S.'s involvement here will move Saudi Arabia to be more positive in terms of its human rights. Okay, Taylor, really a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much.
Always.
Joining us now to discuss the president's meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince is Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow at the International Assessment and Strategy Center and an international military analyst. So Rick, always good to speak with you. Thank you for joining us today. It looks like a lot of warmth between the two leaders today in the Oval Office, and the approved sale of F-35 stealth jets to Saudi Arabia is top of mind for national security reasons. Could you set the stage for us here? How significant is this sale?
This sale is one of the most significant military strategic developments in U.S. Middle East relations in many years. Allowing Saudi Arabia to purchase the F-35 is not just the sale of a jet fighter. It is inviting Saudi Arabia to join a global intelligence infrastructure, because at the heart of the capability of the F-35 is a constantly updated, vast intelligence database that is manipulated by artificial intelligence softwares to produce specific targeting against an amazing array of electronic and kinetic threats. Allowing Saudi Arabia into this really a network, a virtual alliance, so to speak, is a very significant and substantial advance in the Saudi-American strategic relationship.
So as you alluded to, Rick, this is very significant. So far, only Israel has the F-35s. This would make, Saudi Arabia the second nation in the Middle East to have it. What does the U.S. get out of this? How could this benefit U.S. national security interests?
Well, we have to remember that we are in a vital strategic competition in the Middle East with China. China has for decades been organizing and advancing its influence to try to displace the influence of the United States. It has a very significant military relationship with Saudi Arabia. They recently conducted naval exercises, and China has organized a coalition of all Arab nations to try to advance mutual goals, namely Chinese goals, and to displace American influence. The United States really, in a way, had little choice but to sell the F-35 to Saudi Arabia, because if we didn't, in just a few short years, China would probably be able to sell multiple fifth-generation fighters to Saudi Arabia that would very much move its national security infrastructure towards Chinese technology and Chinese influence. Today, Saudi Arabia mainly uses American technology and is firmly in the American technology sphere which is strengthened by the F-35 sale, even though there are substantial concerns both inside the U.S. government and outside the U.S. government that sale of the F-35 to Saudi Arabia could pose a potential risk of compromising its technology to the Chinese presence in that country. And of course, selling this fighter to Saudi Arabia without a comprehensive Saudi-Israeli political settlement path forward is unsettling for Israel.
Okay, so a couple of points there. I want to address the latest one you raised about Israel. Does this sale to Saudi Arabia reduce Israel's military edge?
I don't think so. The degree to which the United States and American military contractors will be present in Saudi Arabia, maintaining and updating and training Saudi pilots and maintainers is one way of, shall we say, providing some degree of control or veto on Saudi use of this technology. The Saudis, of course, are well aware of this. It's a factor that's accompanied all American weapons sales to them. But to the degree to which the United States has helped to ameliorate tension between Israel and Saudi Arabia, all of this is good. The Saudis have access to Chinese ballistic missiles. They have recently entered into a defense pact with Pakistan that explicitly calls for Pakistan to share its nuclear weapons in the defense of Saudi Arabia if necessary. There is essentially a rough balance of power between Saudi Arabia and Israel at the military level. Economically, of course, Saudi Arabia is an energy giant. So, yes, Israel can look at this sale with varying degrees of concern, but so does the United States. And the United States, I think, will be working very hard to make sure that this new capability does not threaten Israel, but primarily threatens future Chinese arms sales.
What can the U.S. do to ensure that China doesn't exploit this deal, this F-35 sale? Because there is sensitive American technology in that plane.
Well, yes, there are many procedures the United States can take, and the United States takes most of these measures with all of the F-35 sales partners, over 20 countries now, to purchase or operate this aircraft. All training of pilots takes place in the United States. Training of maintainers, for the most part, as well. So, in a sense, we get to know the community that will be flying and maintaining the F-35. And this will have to be extended to Saudi Arabia as well. And of course, there's control over the enabling intelligence database. In order to sustain access to that intelligence database, Saudi Arabia and the United States are going to have to be in agreement with many aspects of behavior going forward, and to include a responsible but non-violent relationship with Israel.
Okay, well, Rick, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for speaking with us. A pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Rapper Nicki Minaj is using her voice to amplify the horrific treatment of Christian people in Nigeria. Minaj is working with President Trump and UN Ambassador Mike Waltz. They held a press conference today.
Music has taken me around the globe. I have seen how people, no matter their language, culture, or religion, come alive when they hear a song that touches their soul. Religious freedom means we all can sing our faith regardless of who we are, where we live, and what we believe. But today, faith is under attack in way too many places. In Nigeria, Christians are being targeted, driven from their homes, and killed.
This month, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he told the Department of War to prepare possible action against the Nigerian government. He said this was for the killing of Christians. In the post, Trump said he would stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, and he said the U.S. military may enter the country to wipe out the Islamic terrorists committing the atrocities. Minaj responded to the post saying in part, "Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian." The United Nations Security Council has endorsed President Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan. The council yesterday approved the U.S. drafted resolution. Here's what that resolution could mean for the future of Gaza.
The United Nations Security Council Monday overwhelmingly backed a U.S. drafted resolution laying out a path to end the 2-year Gaza war and begin reconstruction under a new international force.
Please raise their hand.
14 members voted in favor, with Russia and China abstaining. The vote authorizes the deployment of an international stabilization force and the formation of a board of peace to guide Gaza's transitional governance, chaired by President Trump. Before the vote, U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz said Gaza has been a hell on earth for the last 2 years. He said the measure endorses a hard-won ceasefire and outlines a pathway to self-determination for the Palestinian people.
This resolution, colleagues, is no mere paper promise. It's a lifeline where rockets will give way to olive branches, and there is a chance to agree on a political horizon. It dismantles Hamas's grip. It ensures Gaza rises free from terror's shadow, prosperous and secure.
Israel's ambassador to the UN praised the resolution for including an explicit statement about dismantling the terror group.
The decision also includes an explicit statement about disarming Hamas. As we are determined to return all the hostages home, we will demonstrate the same determination and make sure that Hamas is dismantled of its weapons.
President Trump celebrated the decision online, calling it one of the biggest approvals in UN history. But Russia and China criticized the resolution, complaining that it lacked key details, especially regarding the structure and authority of the new peace bodies.
In essence, the Council is giving its blessing to a U.S. initiative based on Washington's promises, giving complete control over the Gaza Strip to the Board of Peace and the International Stabilization Force, the modalities of which we know nothing about so far.
The Hamas terror group, meanwhile, rejected the resolution. In a statement, the group said it fails to meet Palestinians' demands and seeks to impose a system of governance that Palestinians oppose. Hamas also said an international force getting roles inside the Gaza Strip would strip it of its neutrality and make it party to the conflict. Israel says Hamas is resisting the plan because it requires the group to lay down its weapons. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, tensions remain high. On the same day as the vote, the Palestinian Authority-run news agency said Israeli settlers attacked homes and vehicles in the village of Jabba near Bethlehem.
We were at home when we heard banging. I went outside and saw masked men throwing rocks towards the house and had broken the car window. They burned that car over there, and my uncle's car, and my other uncle's car as well. They burned 2 cars that belonged to my cousin.
Another resident said attackers hurled Molotov cocktails.
They broke all the windows of the house, the front and back. They fired Molotov cocktails inside the house.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the violence and vowed to hold the perpetrators accountable. He called them a small extremist group that does not represent the residents of Judea and Samaria. In a social media post, Netanyahu said he would convene his ministers as soon as possible to address the problem of settler violence.
Ukrainian President Zelensky continues his visit to European countries aiming to secure more aid amid Russian attacks. Ukrainian officials say Moscow bombed the newsroom of a national broadcaster today. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the war update.
Good morning, Mr. Zelensky.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Spain on Tuesday. Spain is promising to roll out a substantial aid package for Ukraine. It's not clear yet what's scheduled to be included in that aid package. Zelensky's goal during his trip is to bolster Kiev's air defenses against Russia's invasion. This comes amid a surge of Russian drone and missile attacks on Ukraine in recent weeks. Just on Tuesday, Ukrainian officials reported that Russian drones sparked multiple fires in Dnipro after hitting several areas of the city. Among the damaged buildings is the newsroom of a Ukrainian public broadcaster called Suspilny. The broadcaster says a fire broke out, windows and doors are blown out, and the building's floors and roof are damaged.
The most important thing is that no one was in the office during the attack. Sometimes people stay late to finish work, but yesterday, fortunately, wasn't one of those days.
And in Poland, an explosion damaged a Polish railway track on a route to Ukraine on Monday. Poland's prime minister now says they identified 2 people responsible for the explosion, adding that Poland knows who they work for.
The individuals identified are 2 Ukrainian citizens who have for a long time been operating and collaborating with Russian services.
Russia responded to the claims, accusing Poland of, quote, Russia-phobia. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
It's one of the biggest international tournaments in sports. The FIFA Men's World Cup will take place next summer. The United States, along with Mexico and Canada, are slated to host the soccer matches. FIFA picked 11 U.S. cities for the honor. President Trump says the U.S. is setting up a fast-track visa system for foreign travelers with the tickets to the World Cup. Here are the details.
It's good news for soccer fans around the world. The U.S. will fast-track visas for foreign visitors who have tickets to the 2026 FIFA World Cup matches next year. That is according to President Donald Trump on Monday. The matches will take place in 11 U.S. cities from June 11th to July 19th, 2026, with Canada and Mexico also hosting some games. Washington will set up a scheduling system for visa interview appointments that prioritizes foreign fans attending World Cup matches. Here's Trump.
Since the creation of the White House FIFA Task Force earlier this year, Secretary Rubio's team at the State Department has worked tirelessly with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that soccer fans from all around the world are properly vetted and able to come to the United States next summer easily.
Trump added that the World Cup could bring in $30 billion and create 200,000 jobs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the State Department added 400 consular officers to process visas, doubling its presence in some countries. But he also had a warning for fans.
Your ticket is not a visa. It doesn't guarantee admission to the U.S. It guarantees you an expedited appointment. You're still going to go through the same vetting. We're going to do the same vetting as anybody else would get. The only difference here is we're moving them up in the queue. We're moving them up faster.
At the White House, FIFA President Gianni Infantino predicted 5 to 10 million people will travel to the U.S. for the games. FIFA said that fans from 212 countries have bought over 1 million tickets so far. In a statement, the soccer organization said ticket holders will get details on the priority visa system early in 2026.
Soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo is set to visit the White House today to meet with President Trump. Ronaldo plays in the Saudi Pro League. He is the first male player to score at 5 World Cups. He's also the sport's first billionaire player, following a contract he signed earlier this year. The Portugal superstar says he's got 1 or 2 more years left before he hangs up his cleats, and that the 2026 FIFA World Cup will definitely be his last. The World Cup draw is scheduled for December 5th at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Trump has said he may attend the event. The U.S. continues working with allies Canada and Finland to maintain their presence in the Arctic. The 3 nations recently agreed to build more icebreakers, which are ships designed to break through and navigate through ice-covered waters. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem met with representatives from the 2 nations today.
The Arctic is the world's last, most wild frontier, and our adversaries are racing to claim its strategic position and its rich natural resources for their own. If we give up that high ground, then we will condemn future generations to permanent insecurity. And we're not going to let that happen on our watch. This is what brings us.
Last week, the U.S., Canada, and Finland agreed to establish the Icebreaker Collaboration Effort. They aim to work together to share knowledge and strengthen their ability to produce high-level icebreakers. And today, the three nations signed a joint statement of intent. It will strengthen industrial cooperation while supporting domestic shipbuilding industries and creating more jobs. The representatives say expanding icebreaker fleets will help better address Arctic challenges. The Makuga sisters are a trio of rising American stars, honed by their competitive instincts and fearsome sibling rivalry. They're hoping to compete in 3 separate disciplines at the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics in February. The eldest, 24-year-old Sam, has embraced the high adrenaline demands of ski jumping. Lauren, 23, competes in alpine skiing, and 22-year-old Ali was named 2023 FIS Rookie of the Year in mogul skiing.
I mean, it's been chaotic, but in the best way. It's so cool. I mean, all of us have just been like going out, like before we made the US ski team, you're like, oh, we're just gonna go out and have fun, go skiing. And you're like, that's all we wanted to do. You're like, this is so fun. And then one after another, we kept making the team. You're like, oh, like we could really go somewhere. Like that's wild.
I couldn't imagine doing this journey without them. And I think it's almost like an advantage over everyone else. Like I get to have my siblings there with me for the ride, and we're not even competing against each other. We're just wholeheartedly supporting each other.
It just works. Like Sam is light and she's like perfect for ski jumping. Lauren is very tall and very jacked, which is just what you need for downhill. And like I have pretty strong like legs, and I'm like perfect height for mogul skiing. Like it just works so well.
Growing up in the winter sports paradise of Park City, Utah, their mother kept a color-coded spreadsheet to keep track of their competitions. A tradition she still continues as they compete across different countries and time zones. If all 3 sisters qualify for the games, their events will be scattered across 3 different cities across northern Italy. The qualification period for all 3 sports ends in mid-January. Now, just steps away from our studio here in Hudson Yards, New York City, the first-of-its-kind lighting display just kicked off last night. Hudson Yards' featured landmark, The Vessel, had its own dedicated inaugural lighting with live performances and a big countdown, treating the structure as its own holiday icon.
4, 3, 2, 1, light it up!
The Hudson Yards has had its own Shine Bright displays since 2019, and the Vessel has been lit up as part of the displays in previous holiday seasons. But unlike this year, the Vessel has a first-ever standalone event specifically for lighting up the landmark. Tony Award-winning Broadway singer Kelsey Watts performed her new single, Christmas, in New York minutes before the lighting. And the award-winning Vi Higginson's Sing Harlem Choir sang during the unveiling of the lights. The holiday lights on the Vessel and throughout the Hudson Yards will remain through January 7th, 2026. A 3-judge panel today said a new congressional map drawn by the Texas legislature cannot be used for the 2026 election. The panel ruled that the state will have to use the lines that the legislature passed in 2021. Judge Jeffrey Brown said there was a public perception that the redrawn was about politics. The map cleared the GOP-controlled legislature in August and was then signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott. The new map could have given Republicans control of 30 of the state's 38 congressional districts, up from the 25 they currently hold, and helped protect the GOP majority in the U.S. House. Any appeal of today's ruling will need to go directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a proclamation this morning designating the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, as both terrorist groups and criminal organizations. This means members conducting activities are now subject to higher penalties under Texas law. According to CBS Austin, it also restricts them from purchasing Texas land and grants the state the authority to begin legal action to shut the groups down. The proclamation describes the connection between the groups and the aims promoted by the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. It says they are to create a Muslim state to rule the world under their religion and to smash those considered non-believers. The proclamation describes a collection of laws already in place to prevent such actions from happening in Texas. It also describes members of CARE promoting terrorist causes and facing illegal action for funding terrorist organizations. Democratic Socialist Ray Huang has officially launched her campaign for Los Angeles mayor, challenging incumbent Karen Bass. Huang's policies reflect those that progressive leaders are advancing in other major U.S. cities. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
I'm Reverend Ray Huang. I'm a mother, a pastor, and a community organizer. I'm running to make Los Angeles affordable and healthy, to lower our rent and deliver housing for all, to create an economy for the people, not the billionaires.
Huang, 43, is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. She says her campaign will prioritize transitioning Los Angeles to renewable energy, providing fast and free transit, supporting small businesses, and improving public health safety through expanded mental health services. Huang's priorities are similar to issues highlighted in Democratic New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's campaign. Huang criticized incumbent LA Mayor Karen Bass's handling of homelessness and her response to political violence over the summer.
Mayor Bass failed to deliver the housing we need and wasted taxpayer dollars with little to show for it. Voters approved millions for homelessness, but the mayor only invested in Band-Aid programs and tried to sabotage real solutions.
If elected, she would be the city's first Asian American mayor. In recent months, progressive candidates have been mounting challenges against sitting Democratic officials across the country. In Seattle, activist Katie Wilson recently won her race against Mayor Bruce Harrell. Her platform, similar to Mamdani's, focused on affordable housing, higher taxes on the wealthy, and government-supported grocery programs. LA's mayoral primary will take place on June 2nd, 2026. Christina Corona, NTD News.
As President Trump floats a possible $2,000 tariff rebate, how are everyday Americans reacting to the idea? NTD's Sam Wong was out on the Las Vegas Strip to hear from the people.
President Trump has been talking about giving out a $2,000 tariff rebate. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes. Dog, I want $2,000 right now, but I'll wait for it though, 2026.
Maybe for low-income people it'd be good, but for most people I think it'd be better to pay down the debt.
Who couldn't use $2,000? I think it's a great idea.
I don't like that at all. I think our debt is too high. I think we should be paying down our debt.
Well, if they do it, I'll take the money. I don't care.
How about you?
I'm not sure too.
You won't take the money?
I want, but
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll take
sure it will be.
I don't think it's a good thing because I think once you start doing that, it's another redistribution program. So if I make over $100,000 and my neighbor makes less than $100,000, I'm paying the tax on the goods that I buy. I give that money to the government, and the government then takes that money that I've paid and gives it to my neighbor. Where tariffs come into play, if we want to tariff a country that's doing terrible things or about to go to war, committing atrocities, doing things that are very anti to what the United States interests are, doing a temporary tariff to change that country's behavior is a great thing. If we had 1,000% tariff on China, who's a bad actor in the world, I'm absolutely for it.
And some people are suggesting that it's either that or pay down the debt. Which one do you prefer?
I consider both, tell you the truth. I mean, my grandkids are, God knows how many trillions of dollars are going to be in debt when they get up there. You know, if Social Security is even around. I'm worried about it, but you know what? It is live one day at a time.
I think we should pay down the debt first, to be honest with you. So it's out of control.
We're like trillions in debt right now, dog. What's that got to do with me, dog? I'm finna spend the $2,000 on myself.
Well, from like a personal perspective, I'd like free money. I could really use it, but I also do think paying that's important.
If we are going to keep a tariff policy that is bringing money to the U.S. Treasury, pay down the debt. The debt is our biggest existential crisis in this country. The fact that we won World War II is because we were able to substantially increase our debt to the highest levels relative to GDP in the history of our country. There's no way we could possibly do that again today and survive.